Years ago, while walking on a beach, a Greek storyteller saw two crabs moving on the rocks and told this story.
One day, a mother crab said to her baby, "Son, don't drag yourself sideways like that. It is not good for you. It is better to stroll forward." To which the baby replied, "I will, Mom, as soon as you show me how. Watching you, I will do what you do."
The story reminds us that children are always watching us, and they do what we do. What is justice? According to the Catechism, the virtue of justice is the constant and firm will to give what is due to God and to each person. The virtue of justice prompts us to respect the rights of others. St. John Paul II wrote, "The family is the first school of those social virtues that every society needs." In this video, we reflect on the practice of the virtue of justice among the members of the family, between husband and wife, between parents and children, and between adult children and their parents. Justice in the family begins with husband and wife giving each other what they promised with their wedding vows. Do you remember what you promised to your spouse in your vows?
I said mine in Spanish, so he may not know what I said.
For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, forsaking all others.
In sickness and in health.
Always and forever.
Love, cherish, obey, honor. We promised everything.
Love you through all of that.
Everything,
and there's some
nonstop.
challenging days.
We promise to be together forever, and forever is a long time.
Not sure if we knew the repercussions of that when we said them.
And at that time, I didn't fathom the magnitude of those words.
Thornton Wilder, the American playwright, wrote, "I didn't marry you because you were perfect. I married you because you gave me a promise." Two imperfect people got married, and it was the promise that made the marriage. And when our children were growing up, it wasn't the house that protected them. It was that promise. What did you learn from your parents' marriage?
What I learned from my parents' marriage is to be there for each other.
What I learned from my parents' marriage is service.
What I learned from my parents' marriage was perseverance.
What I learned from my parents is sacrifice.
When my parents divorced, I was 40 years old. But I felt like an 11-year-old girl who just wanted her daddy to love her mommy. And it was really hard for a long time. But what I ultimately learned was how to truly forgive.
Pope Francis told couples, "Don't ever forget that your children are always watching you. There is no greater testimony for a child than seeing his own parents love one another." The story of the mother crab speaks to all parents about their duty, out of justice, to be a good example to their children and to be models of virtue. Out of justice, what do parents owe their children?
We owe our children unconditional love.
Raising them in the faith, giving them a safe and secure environment.
To give them what they will need to be successful parents, successful people.
Our children deserve from us our principles and our values and our morals.
One of the first obligations of parents is to spend time with their children. Pope Francis, in one of his weekly audiences, lamented that fathers today do not spend enough time with their children.
The one thing I like to do with all my children is to make memories. For example, we would go on vacation and I would always make a music soundtrack for our vacation. And I would always put iconic songs on there, songs that I knew that they would hear for years and years to come. And when they would hear that song, they would think of that vacation or that trip or something.
What do you want your children to learn from you?
What I want my children to learn from me is that I want them to be able to be good citizens.
What I want my children to learn from me is love and respect.
To work hard and to always have a smile.
What I would want my children to learn from me is fairness, treat everybody the same.
What I want my children to learn from me is to rely on their faith. Faith in God, that God is always with them, always helping them.
Justice exists in the family when the rights of every member are respected. The family members who are easily forgotten today are the elderly, our parents and our grandparents.
We're the living example of what we do for our parents to our children. So kind of keeping with the commandment, honor thy mother and father, that kind of fulfills that, I hope.
How close are you to your parents?
I'm very close to my mother. I see her every week, talk several times a week.
My mother lives in Southern California, and I talk to her probably once a week.
We are not close physically, but we try to be very close with them with the technology help. I used to make a Skype with them every single day.
I was very close to my mother and father. My father died at 55 years of age. I was with him when he died. My mom was 64 when she died. I can't see a cardinal and I can't see a robin without saying hi, Mom and Dad. They're two favorite birds.
Out of justice, what do adult children owe their parents?
I would hope that it wouldn't be an obligation to me to take care of my parents as they age. I hope it would be something that I lovingly would want to do.
I don't really consider it to be an obligation. To me, in some ways, it's a privilege.
The obligation is to be there for them, to read them a book, to play cards with them. I saw it with my grandma. She wanted to be part of the family. She wanted to have the meal with us. She wanted to be heard. Even if sometimes what she said didn't make sense.
When seen through the eyes of faith, the virtue of justice is no longer a list of obligations. It is an act of self-giving love, a love that we learn from Jesus.
When we were taking care of Barb's mom, sometimes that disrupted our relationship as well because we felt maybe guilty about not spending enough time with her because she made us feel that way, that we were not giving her enough attention. And I remember times where I would try to get my breakfast done and leave before Mom would come out of the bedroom because she'd ask all these questions and she was confused.
I think what we realized, it wasn't the same mom that I knew. You know, she was fading. The reason we did it is because we loved her.
Now, my daddy was the hardest working person you ever seen in his life. And he was a mechanic. He could fix anything mechanical. We owned a garage and he fixed junk cars. He kind of got in trouble with his taxes. And, you know, the folks decided to take his business and everything. Well, I went down and I talked to the bank and they changed the interest rate from 7% to 3%. And then, you know, just was able to, help him manage his money. They had given me everything that I had. And really, I call him my father. He was actually my stepfather, but he was my father in the sense that he raised me. And they gave me all the support that they could, give me. So anything I could do for them, I did.
We grow in the virtue of justice through the example of the saints and the graces we receive in the sacrament of penance. Reparation and forgiveness restore justice and promote harmony and peace in the family and in society. From the story of the two crabs, we learn the importance of a parent's example in a child's life. Your children are watching you. Always do what is right. Give what is due to God and be fair with every person you meet. And when you fall short, seek to repair the damage and to ask for forgiveness. The practice of justice brings harmony into your home, and from your home, peace spills into your community, and from there to the rest of the world. Now spend a few moments with your spouse reflecting on the virtue of justice. Ask yourself, how do I keep the promises I make to my spouse? How do I give my children what they need from me? And how do I care for the elderly members of my family?